Hello and welcome to the Road to Worlds, and this is it. This is the final episode of the season. This is the end of the road, as it were. The Worlds recap, or as I've been calling it this week, the Champions Edition. I'm your host Daniel Madison, and with me, as always, is my co-host Greg Dillon.
Hello.
How you been, Greg?
Very good. Yeah, excited looking at all the information about Wells. Disappointed I wasn't there.
We would love to have you. It was a pretty fantastic trip. I really enjoyed it, though. Having been to GenCon last year, this year's last year was to be fair was a Continentals and not a Worlds, but this year's attendance numbers from Trek players blew last year out of the water, and I'm really proud of how we did as a community. We're going to get into that. We'll start talking about Worlds momentarily, but first I want to introduce our guest for tonight. He lives in Washington State. He is one of the designers of the first edition set, The Sky's the Limit. And he also won the World Championship for first edition this year. Jason Drake.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much.
Good to have you on here, and congratulations on your win.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, you haven't been on the show before. If you could, I'm told you've been around quite a while. Could you tell us a little bit about your history with the game, for those that are not familiar with you?
Sure. I started playing about 94, 95, way back in the depths of time. Can't remember the exact year. Todd Soper, one of my good friends from Gonzaga University, got me into the game. If anyone doesn't know the name Todd Soper, he took second place at the very first two World Championships, and so we've been hanging out, rooming together occasionally for many years. Not recently. I've moved to the other side of the state, but I did attend three World Championships in the early years, around 99, 2000, 2001. I had some decent finishes. Got to meet a lot of people, had a lot of fun building up a group of friends that you only saw once a year, but it was still very neat to go out and hang out with people. And then, like a lot of other first edition players, I disappeared for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years ago, I got back into it when I discovered the continuing committee. And this is my third trip to GenCon. And and my most successful in terms of the 1E championship, obviously.
Yeah. So you've been around for quite some time, and you've played in some high-level events before. So how did it feel to finally win the World Championship?
It was obviously very exciting, very pleased. I'd like to say, no one gave me a shot, and I vindicated myself, but that's actually pretty far from the truth. There are a lot of people talked to me both before and after the final, very encouraging words. Several people said they expected me to be a favorite or the favorite, and very nice. A lot of people congratulating me afterwards, said it was kind of a long time coming. Not that it was inevitable, but they felt that I'd shown myself a quality player for many years, and they thought this was a nice cap to a lot of what I'd done, and I felt the same way. So I know that's how I felt when Ken won 2 years ago. I had played him. I had many epic games with Ken over the years, as he lives in Vancouver, and we had faced off in regionals, and I know it was nice to see him get that championship trophy, as it were, although there's no trophy now, and as a real nice cap and a little bit of recognition on that, and I think he and a lot of other people felt the same way about me, and it was very friendly, very nice.
I do believe that we we refrained from, one of the things we did on the show over the course of regional season was we made predictions over for each regional event who we thought was going to win them. We specifically refrained from making predictions for the larger events such as Continentals and Worlds. But I do believe your name was definitely thrown out there as one of the favorites. In fact, I think it was Chris Sonstaby that specifically called you out as an old guard player that really had a good shot at it. And looking at I'm just looking at the list of pre-registered players. It was one of those events where it really could have gone to everybody because and second edition was the same way. There was this stacked field. There were a lot of really talented, high caliber players at these events. So for those listening, we'll talk about the event a little bit. First edition Worlds, we might as well start there. They had I think it was 37 players that showed up for first edition Worlds for day one, and Jason has pretty extensive. Jason's deck list is posted, and he has a pretty extensive tournament report also up on the site. But would you mind giving us a summary of what you're running? And I think you had a different deck for day one, right?
I had very different decks on day one and day two.
All right, so let's talk about what you ran for day one first.
Okay. Well, day one was a pure speedster. It was minimal seeds, trying to stack as many free reports as I could, and it was a Bajoran Cardassian treaty using free reports for the Chamber of Ministers, Quark's Bar, Bajoran Resistance Cell, I Missed This Office, and the Cardassian support personnel downloads.
Mm-hmm.
And freighters.
A lot of free plays. Yeah, that's something I... Go ahead.
Oh, and the punchline was I managed to make it a 2-mission deck because it was a Gamma Quadrant Explorer. I always worry a lot about Cytherians being such a game swinger. So what I tend to do, and I've done this in lots of different decks, is I look for a way to beat Cytherians, and then I say, hey, I can beat Cytherians, may as well throw it in for 15 points. So I self-seeded a Cytherians in the Gamma Quadrant and came back and picked up an off-cell vase, and I think all my wins were 2 missions in that first round.
Wow. Looking at your performance on that day one, it was a 6-round event, and you went in there without a bye. You had to play all your rounds,
Mm-hmm.
and did very well. You placed second in the field. You were seeded second after those 6 rounds, and you were 5-1, and your only loss was to Chris Sonstaby.
Yes.
So what types of decks did you see?
I
on that
saw
day?
I saw 2 other Bajoran decks, only one of which used Deep Space Nine. I was actually hoping to see more because with the mechanic for I Missed This Office, you get to download a Cardassian outpost, which is actually a lot more convenient for reporting. But I saw 3 Romulan decks using Continuing Mission. They just kept coming and coming and coming. So I had built some of those myself. I was familiar with them, not that it gave me a big advantage, but it's kind of interesting coincidence that I saw that deck over and over.
Seems like the Romulans that did so well in second edition Continentals all year suddenly invaded first edition. Let's try it over here.
Yeah, well, they have a nice advantage with the Continuing Mission. You can stack it with cybernetics expertise because they have TLAC, I believe his name is. These security personnel with cybernetics you can download on the first turn.
Yeah, that's great synergy there. I was going to say about your deck, I do remember hearing that. I remember one of the first things I noticed about Emissary was that most of the play engines, at least the Bajoran-related play engines, were specifically tailored to not allow you to play Bajoran Resistance with them.
Yeah.
And the Maquis has an engine that works the same way. Like they're all worded differently, but they all basically spell out don't play Bajor Resistance. Uh, but yeah, I Miss This Office does not have that restriction if you're willing to put in the extra seed and run the treaty.
Yep. Yes,
That's a nice pairing.
It is a nice pairing, and the actual big advantage I found to using Reshape the Quadrant was simply the Gamma Quadrant mission bonus, mission span bonus.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have that icon on all your cards, the Gamma Quadrant missions go down by a span of 1.
Yep.
And if not for that, I probably would have played a similar deck with an open card pool. But because those missions have such a high span, that made a huge difference in the speed of the deck.
Yeah, plus you've got a shorter space line because there probably aren't going to be too many opponents that are running Gamma Quadrant, and that makes the Cytherians a quick trip too.
Exactly. That was the simple.
Yeah. So yeah, 5-1 on the day, and yeah, some pretty impressive wins here. Cause you beat Michael Van Bremen, you beat Ryan Sutton, Jason Bayer in the last round. And finished second on the day. The top seed coming out of day 1 was Stefan Slavy, the defending world champion.
Yes.
And you know, he was for both games, he was at the top table almost the entire day for each day 1. And you know, there was a running joke like. During second edition, Eric Robinette was sitting down where he thought he was going to be paired each round, and he was right, like a couple of rounds in a row. But I was like, yeah, and Stefan is over there at the top. Stefan, that chair has Stefan's name on it. He has not left that chair in 2 days. I remember, and there was some debate on the forums whether or not he was actually showing up or if he was just trying to troll everybody. But no, he showed up at the restaurant Wednesday night, and people got excited. Oh, look, he actually made it.
Yeah, I was very excited that he made it over. A little disappointed I didn't get to play him, but at least we were in the same tournament, and I got to peek at his deck lists afterwards.
Yep. Yep, looked like he was running a Hirogen non-aligned Hirogen Equinox deck for day 1.
For both days, actually.
I think I was gonna say, I think he ran it on both days.
Yeah, in Chris's tournament report, he mentions it was the same deck from day 1.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also a very similar deck to the one that won. Oh no, sorry, not the one that he played in European Continentals.
Yeah. So that was 1E day 1, and I incidentally I did not play in 1E day 1 because I was judging. So I get to watch everybody and make rule calls and avoid having to clean up a massive 1E pile for 6 rounds in a row. And I quite enjoyed myself. So.
That's always another good reason to play a small speed deck on the day 1.
Less cleanup.
Less cleanup, yes. Keep your brain fresh and your fingers from being exhausted.
Yeah. I like playing 1E, but 6 rounds is just a grind to me. I don't think I could handle that level. But let me backtrack a little, and before we get into your day 2, I wanted to touch on some 2E stuff. So Wednesday night was the WCT Champions event. This was the event that it was a single elimination 2E event. It required 50 lifetime league points to register, and the winner of the event would get a 2-round bye in 2E Worlds 2 days later. So a lot on the line, and 21 players were signed up for this event, and we loaded up Granite City, the restaurant that hosted us on Wednesday night. We had that going on. We had a 2E side event. We also had the Rainbow Sealed 1E side event going on. So we had a lot of players packed into that restaurant on Wednesday night. Interestingly, there were a few play-in rounds because they had to play one round to get it down to a field of 16, and all of the everyone in the top 16 advanced. Like all of the higher seeds won the play-in round. So the top 16 actually stayed in and made it into that round. And this event played until I think about midnight, and then midnight, almost 12:30, and then we realized that we were told that the restaurant had closed. Apparently, we had they had misinterpreted the closing time, and so they had played everything except the final round, and it was down to Mike Harrington and Johannes Klarhauser. They were the two left standing, and so they made plans to play their event sometime during the next day. So they got it in just after I think it was just after day one of Worlds. It was while there were some side events going on. They got their game in, and Johannes was the winner of that. He was running a Klingon deck that I did not check the deck list for, but that got him the 2-round bye for 2E day 1, which would take place on Saturday. So 2E, that day 1, there were 43 players. It's a very impressive turnout for 2nd edition Worlds. I did play in this one. I did not fare very well. I played Relativity, and I ended up 4-3 with a bye over 8 rounds. Not 4-3 with a bye. 4-3 with a tie. Excuse me. Had a true tie in there. And ended up like right in the middle, which was fine. I'll take that. But for 2E, the top 16 would advance to day 2, and Johannes took his 2-round bye and rode that all the way to the top seed after day 1. He was not playing Klingons again. He was running a Voyager, the Voyager deck. I remember seeing the breakdown of affiliations for 2E, and I think TOS had the highest showing. I think they had like 7. There were a lot of Relativity decks, and there was a lot of DS9, so a lot of Federation in general in this event. There were a few Romulan decks. I want to say there were 5. The highest of which was Neil Timmons, who took the 2nd seed. He was the 2nd highest in the top 16. Ken Tufts was also playing Romulan, and he was 5th highest. Yeah, looking at the top 16, it looks like 3 TOS decks got there, just 1 Relativity, a couple of Cardassians, a pretty good mix, actually.
Yeah, it is a good mix. I mean, even like those Ferengi Cardassian were a surprise, I think. Like, having not been played by many people, I don't think there was any Cardassian decks at like EU, CC, or NACC.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's 2 of them there in the top 10.
Well, that was something that we talked about last week. I think you speculated, or maybe it was Charlie that speculated, that maybe people were holding back some of the Cardassian builds, and that they'd sneak them out at Worlds, and that may have been the case. Lucas Thompson and Will Hoskin were the ones that got into the top 16. with Cardassian builds. So, yeah, good for them. um, but no, there were a few Romulan decks in there, but it was not Romulan everything like Continentals has been.
Yeah, like you said, there was 5. One of them was a multi-HQ, and then 3 made the top 16, which is reasonable. I mean,
reasonable showing. I don't know if I'd call it dominating.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not like it's not like errata worthy at all kind of stuff.
But yeah, so Johannes got in there. Neil was second. Mike Harrington actually, despite not getting the bye, he still placed third at day 1. And yeah, a really a pretty impressive top 16. And so they would go on to day 2, and both day 2s were played on the same day, on Saturday. And they started with 1E in the morning and 2E in the afternoon. So 1E, that's where Jason comes in. And Jason, what were you playing for day 2? Now, I know the answer to this, but I want to hear your description of it, because it was a very interesting deck.
Well, I don't get to play much because there are not players around here where I live. But I do assiduously read tournament reports, and especially from top players on Trek CC. And I reached a certain level of paranoia about the type of decks I would be facing in a bracket tournament. And of course, in a bracket tournament, you don't have to win 100-0. You don't have to win. You don't have to get a full win. Whereas that's very useful in a round tournament because you get more victory points. But in a bracket tournament, a win is a win is a win. Yeah. So I became very concerned about lockdown decks, anti-beaming strategies, attacks, and that sort of thing. And my deck was sort of tailored to defend against that. And that's how I ended out with 6 planets and lots of landable ships, lots of landing protocols, a fractal encryption code that I never used, and bluegill infestation, androids with boosted strength. I was prepared to be attacked in a lot of ways.
So no ship battles, no personnel battles, no getting caught in space.
No getting caught in space.
Did you run into any loss of orbital stabilities? Because I heard those were popular on day 1.
No, I did not. One card that changed in my deck about 4 times. I kept swapping it back and forth. I started with 2 runabouts. And then I switched to a runabout and a Type 6 shuttlecraft, and then I switched back and forth and back and forth. I was very concerned about loss of orbital stability. The shuttlecraft had an extra advantage, though, and that's that it could be loaded onto a normal ship.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a very long spin in one turn if I had to get someplace in a hurry.
Yeah, but their shields are low enough that they would blow up to a loss of orbital stability.
But at least I could beam off.
Right.
So, and I expected if I didn't actually face anti-beaming cards that I probably wouldn't use the shuttlecraft in most games anyways. It would just get chucked with a handshake.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out that decision really didn't matter one way or another.
So so this was a TNG fed deck,
yes.
Right? Continuing mission.
Continuing mission, bridge crew, and of course lots of androids.
Mm-hmm. And I watched your game, and I saw that you seeded a Claystron outpost. Was there anything Cardassian in there, or was that just to have an extra reporting?
That was just to have an extra reporting spot.
Okay.
So that I could do 2 or 3 missions without having to expose myself to long-distance travel.
Gotcha. And what I really liked about this deck, well, I think what a lot of people were talking about was the surprise artifact that nobody plays with that you had in your deck.
Yes, that was the Blade of Tikkun, and it. I had put it in a few decks that I had built, none of which I had played. First one that I put it in was a TNG fed deck like this one, but with a balanced space line, but with the intent to solve only planet missions. and I realized that if it was a big boost in mobility if I could move one of those planets. I think a lot of people overlook it. If you're going for a 2-mission win, there's almost no point in moving a planet because you're only going to solve one, and that's where the artifact is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people can identify which one you're going to solve and pop it with the dead end.
Right.
But its value and its probability of being useful rises a lot when you start planning on doing 2 or 3 planet missions.
Yeah, especially if you're going all planet, you're going to have to get around.
It's just the OTF.
OTF rules. Yeah, like that card that's not in it.
the big picture effect.
Yes. That card, that thing.
When you decided you were doing all planets, did you think about, or were you worried at all about balancing act, considering it could be downloaded with Skeleton Crew?
I was. I considered if I faced a balancing act in a attack deck, an aggressive deck that was attempting to be interactive, I felt that I could still outrun it and get to 150 because I had enough defensive measures that I would be okay. And I just didn't expect to see it in a speed deck.
Mm-hmm.
If I had, I would have lost probably. But yeah, you have to take some risks at a tournament of that level. So.
I'm guessing you never saw it.
No, I did not. So. And of course, I knew that if I saw a Dyson Sphere door, I would have to attempt missions more aggressively in order to get to, in order to solve 4 of them.
Yeah. Well, if you see a Dyson Sphere door, that's a pretty good sign that there might be a balancing act in your future.
Yeah, but I also felt that if I saw a Dyson Sphere door, I was in good shape to pass all the other dilemmas that came out of it, because most of them are attribute and classification heavy, and the androids tend to walk through those pretty well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of those are a little on the weaker side. That's the whole point. Is that you got those dilemmas that download a bunch of them and just give you a couple of little ones instead of one big one.
But one of the biggest values I got out of the Blade of Tikkun, and this was actually a huge key in my in the final, was not so much what happened when I used it, but what happened during the seed phase. When I sat down to face Jeremy Huth in the final, it was our second game.
Right.
I knew what he was doing, and I knew which mission he wanted to start with, based on his deck. And even though I didn't want to play an interactive strategy myself, I was able to intermix our missions and force his preferred mission into the middle of the space line and isolate it there, because I knew that I would be able to move one of my missions later on.
Yeah, so you wouldn't expose yourself to have to fly past him because you just move your mission.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you played Jeremy first, and then you beat him. He was running a Borg deck. Was it They Will Be Coming? Alpha Quadrant Borg deck?
Yes, it was They Will Be Coming Alpha Quadrant Borg deck, capable of a 2-mission win if he could solve a planet and then salvage starship at Wolf 359. It was a very tight, very efficient. I was very impressed with that deck. I believe it had 48 cards in the draw deck. It's actually smaller than mine.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was able to play his outpost on the first turn every game.
Nice.
And start scouting for the mission at the end of the space line very soon.
So did you rather than be interactive, did you have to outspeed him? Is that?
Well, it was different in both games. The first game, he got the planet mission he wanted at the end of the space line, and my big advantage was I expected to play Borg against Borg.
Yeah.
I was sure they would be there, and I made sure that all my dilemmas were good against the Borg. And the Dyson Sphere dilemmas are really good against redshirting Borg because you get 2 kills for the price of 1, even though they're beaming down 1 at a time. And you think, okay, one drone at a time, they're expendable, but in a small deck like that, you start racking up 4 or 5 drones getting killed in 1 mission, and it starts running pretty thin. So I had that, plus I think probably the MVP of my deck might have been, if not the Blade of Tikkun, the all-consuming evil.
Oh
He was
yes.
redshirting. Yes, he was redshirting or Borg redshirting his mission at the end of the space line in our first game, and I hit him with Arma Sticky Situation, which is very effective in that situation. And that slowed him down a turn and cost him another drone. And I believe it might have been the drone that allows his scout ship to land, and he could not take off with the scout ship again.
Oops.
Yes.
So you played Jeremy, you beat Jeremy, and then you played Johannes.
Uh-huh.
And he was running, looks like Maquis, Bajoran Resistance, a lot of stacked play engines.
And the Sona.
And the Sona.
And the Sona, yes.
Which has been popular since Maquis came out. I think that won European Continentals.
Yeah. Yes, it was a very fast deck, looked very scary early on. I was not at all certain at any point until very close to the end how that one would turn out.
And then you had to face Jeremy again in the finals because Jeremy lost the first round, but fought his way back in.
Yes.
As he was one of the higher seeds as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what was did knowing what he was playing change how you played the second game?
Absolutely. He only had 2 planet missions,
Mm-hmm.
and one of those was Established Station, I believe, the Cardassian mission that's a planet mission at a nebula, and the other one was Earth. And I wasn't too worried about him going after Earth, but what I did was I ended up covering that. I had a Kobayashi Maru scenario, useless against the Borg, so I bluff seeded that under Earth. I had an extra point dilemma that probably wouldn't help me because he had point drains and I'd have to solve 3 missions anyways. So I donated that, put that under Earth as well, and I seeded one of his missions in the middle of the space line with just a Cytherians and nothing else, because I knew he was Borg and that would cause him enough trouble.
Sure.
And that ended out freeing up 4 dilemmas to put at the very end of the space line.
Nice.
Yes, whereas my deck was only running 12 to start with.
Oh yeah.
And that gave me.
Hello?
And of course, as I said, I was able to isolate Established Station in the middle of the space line, so he couldn't start there.
Right.
Or he could have, but he would have had to staff his cube and fly over before building his outpost.
Nice. So bleh. I've lost words. I have lost words. So I wanted to mention that of the top 4 decks that made it into the semifinal rounds, all 4 were very different styles of decks, and probably like they kind of run the gamut of like the 4 major types of decks that you could bring in. You have a continuing mission deck, you had a Borg deck, you had just a stackable play engine deck, that doesn't adhere to one series, and then you had a Delta Quadra deck with Stefan's Herogen Equinox. So all deck types that have been dominant over the last 3 or 4 years at one time or another, and all of them making it to the top 4. So that's pretty impressive to see that kind of variety in your Worlds Day 2.
Yeah, I thought it made things a lot more fun. You could play your deck and feel like you were doing something a little different, a little more your own style. And Feds and Androids have always been very much my style. I like playing both, and I can do it and be competitive and not just be the guy playing the most powerful thing that everyone else was playing.
Yeah.
And so could the other players. Stefan Slaby, he got to play Delta Quadrant.
Yep.
3 years ago, you would have said, yeah, Delta Quadrant, hoo-hoo, everyone wins with that. Now it's a little harder. It's a little more personalized, and it's a little different.
Yeah, there were some erratas issued and some bans made, etc. And the balance was pushed away from Delta Quadrant for a while, but they're definitely still competitive.
Oh yes, definitely.
Um,
And he had a nice mix of ways to rack up a few extra bonus points in there. He
yeah.
had he had two of the self-controlling Borg ship, the one that's found at Earth, that's worth 10
hmm
points if your opponent encounters it and it moves off the space line.
Oh, the assimilated vessel. Yeah.
Assimilated vessel, thank you.
hmm
Yes, and he had the Phoenix.
That was
Uh,
from your set.
he had the assimilated vessel. Yes, it was.
Yeah. From
And I
Sky's
should
the
have
Limit.
named for it, but a lot of times the names don't come out until after we're done with the design work, and
Right, right. It's all playtest titles. Yeah.
creative team actually tacks that on and does a fabulous job. But he had that, and he had the Phoenix in his tent. No place to play it under basic play rules, but he had multiple copies of What Does God Want with the Starship. And
Oh.
yes, that was, I don't know if you've read his deck list, but I love the way he did his Q tent. He had like 3 different ships in there, all with very special abilities that he could download with What Does God Want with the Starship. And one of them.
Yeah, I agree. I like how you used that intro with getting the ISIS Enterprise for Tantalus Field and getting the Deredex that downloads from an ambush to capture people, and of course the Phoenix.
I like that. That's creative.
Yeah, and that was one more thing with the Phoenix that made his Delta Quadrant deck, I think, very viable to win with three missions, maybe even 2, depending on what he encountered.
How do you think you would have done if you'd faced it?
Whew. Yeah, I would have to think seriously long and hard about even putting my Cytherians under one of his missions. I tend to lean a lot on that as a dilemma against my opponent as well. And last time I played a Delta Quadrant opponent, that lost me the game because, of course, they have the very short space line.
Oh yeah, they're fast across the Delta Quadrant space line.
Yes, I think it would have depended on a lot if he had gotten out his ocular implants early and made use of them. I think that might have actually been to my advantage, because with all my dilemma downloading, I expected ocular implants as well.
hmm
Because that's why I like the downloading dilemmas. I used a Dyson Sphere Door myself, in addition to All-Consuming Evil, and that's good at blocking them. So if he'd gotten the ocular implants out, wasted a card play on it, and been peeking at dilemmas, I think that might have slowed him down enough that I would have had a chance. If he'd just gone pell-mell after his missions and thrown his people at them, I think he would have beat me with that deck, because he definitely had the ships and personnel to overcome the dilemmas I was using.
Yeah, would have been cool to watch.
And of course, I would have had to respond to that by being even more aggressive with my mission attempts, and
Sure.
would have seen how I faced against his dilemmas.
Um, it is interesting that a continuing mission Federation deck won Worlds last year at this time, or last year at GenCon. Federation was considered the weakest of the continuing mission builds, and Ferengi were winning everything.
Mm-hmm.
So things have kind of turned around for them.
Yeah, well, the Ferengi and the Klingons also, they both had a big benefit from being able to produce lots of copies of Basamg and Gozar.
hmm And Sunad, and
Yes.
a lot of them were running mercenary raiders, and that was altered a bit.
Yes, they had universal personnel who are better than some of the bridge crew.
Yeah.
And, their ability to play those in multiples has been somewhat tapered. Of course, Gozar was errated to be unique.
Right.
And they changed attention all hands so that you could only report free a universal personnel you didn't already have in play.
Right, and only to your outpost, not to your ship.
Yep, and the Feds got a couple of new universals. Herbert was in my deck.
Yeah, and the Feds still have with Finest Crew, they still have ship reporting to an extent.
Yeah.
Using the Enterprise people.
Yeah. But
I guess the Klingons still have it too with Gowron.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Ferengi, not so much. Um, I'm going to move on and talk about 2E Worlds and just cover day 2. So for those that didn't that missed it, that have been living under a rock and have not checked the site, Neil Timmons was the winner. He was playing a Maquis build. He defeated Johannes Klarhauser in the finals, and Johannes was running Ferengi, so no Romulans in the top 2. And actually, the highest Romulan deck finished 9th, unless Mike Harrington was running it. His deck list isn't listed, so I don't know what he was running.
Mike was playing Starfleet.
Okay.
So yeah, Stephens was the highest one.
Yeah. And aside from, I think, and then the next one down was Lucas, but he was running dual affiliation. He was running a dissident deck, so not a traditional Romulan deck at all.
Yeah, and that's just an example of if you come prepared for the Romulans, they're not that great. So like they're good, but when you prepare for example, Jared Hoffman and Ken were both playing almost exact copies of Nate Runninger's deck that came second to Neil at North American Continentals.
Yep.
And he built that deck pretty much to counter the Romulan stuff, and then it worked. I think one of them ended up beating Stefan. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was Tyler Fultz. Tyler Fultz playing a very fast Cleon OS deck.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen that DS9 build. That's a pretty tough build, pretty tough deck.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. It does really well against the Romulans, but then because the Romulans lean heavily on their all-consuming evils and the dilemma pile, the kill pile, so the South Poly just nullifies that. But then it doesn't do well against like Neil Timmons' deck, for example, because the Maquis can just keep pushing their command stars back, which slows them down just an insane amount. Like it's hard to stuff those bloody ships.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to predict what people are going to run sometimes, and you build one deck to counter another deck, but then you lose to deck C or whatever, and that may have been what happened here. Like people were packing Romulans, but people were packing things to counter the Romulans, and then there weren't a lot of actual Romulans. And Neil winning with Maquis, weren't we saying recently, hey, where have the Maquis been?
Yeah, exactly. I think it was after European Continentals, I was surprised there had been no Maquis decks for almost a year and a half. Like people didn't even play them in last year's Continentals and Worlds.
Yeah, and they weren't showing up at regionals. Like they were almost nowhere to be found.
Yeah, no, I was surprised that they weren't being played because they're still a very good deck, and mainly I think it was probably because they're hard to play. So there's only a few people that would be confident going into a high stakes situation, not making mistakes with them.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, Neil did end up playing Romulan. Maquis. He did end up playing Maquis, and
he played Romulan day 1.
Yeah, he came second with that. That was so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that's the case. Like nowadays, where it's not so much the deck that's winning, it's the players. As you can see, I mean, Neil takes 2 different decks and wins Worlds and Continentals against decks that are supposed to counter him. Like Johannes' deck, Ferengi, is one that would do quite well against a Maquis deck, as Neil said in his tournament report. But just a mistake here or there lost Johannes the game.
Yeah. Maquis, though, we talked about it. Was a little surprised that we hadn't seen them up until this point, but I'm not actually surprised that they won. Um, I am surprised to see Ferengi at number 2.
You know, I haven't played much Frankie. I've played them like once before, and I did awful because I had no idea what was happening. They got so many tools, it's confusing.
Yeah, it
But
is confusing.
I built Stefan's deck after he got second at European Continentals,
Uh-huh.
and I played that a few times. And Johannes is extremely similar to that. And I'm not surprised that they come second. They, like I said, they have a lot of tools. So they're kind of like Marquee, where they're probably difficult to play, but they have a lot of tools. For example, Grish, which is the universal pass ranking dude, is just a massive hard counter to kill piles because when a Ferengi dies, or a pass Ferengi dies, you can't kill any more Ferengi that turn. So if Grish is there and you're playing a kill pile, it's not even like in Sao Paulo where you can still get stops out of it. It's just every one of your dilemmas will do nothing against the Ferengi.
Yeah, they
And then
also
on top
have.
of that, they're quick. They've got a lot of attribute boosts. They've got a lot of counter cards like Brunt to take out events. And they've got the rule of Acquisition 33 to cheat past dilemmas really easily.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're just like packed full of tools. It's a good deck. I like it.
yeah, it's one of those decks you need to know. You need to know how it works, but if you know how your deck works, it's a lot of moving parts, but it's pretty tough to get through. Pretty tough to break the puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have to spend a fair amount of time learning it, and the benefit of that is you're gonna get some advantages when you play against people that don't know how to play Ferengi. Like they're not gonna know about all of your cheaters and stuff, and they'll throw dilemmas that are just blanks because you have stuff in your hand that'll kill them, and they just don't know about the Ferengi stuff.
So looking back at Neil's deck and looking at his record on day 2, he had to play Michael Van Bremen in the first round, and he was running TOS, probably with a tragic pile because I think that's what he's been running. Then he played Jared Hoffman, like you said, Jared was running a DS9. Then he had to play Michael again, and then finally Johannes in the last round. And again, as with Jason, Neil's deck lists are up, and he has tournament reports, also very extensively written, up on the website. So be sure to check those out for full reports on the games played. And that's Tui. So congratulations to Neil Timmons. Things wrapped up on Sunday with Tribbles Worlds, and we had a ton of players for Tribbles. We had 46 players. The final results show 37. I think a bunch of players just dropped after the first table and didn't stay for the second table. But yeah, we started with 46. We had 7 tables in the qualifying round. And there were groups of 7 and 6 players, and they just took the top player from the winner of each table to make a top table of 7. Somehow I managed to make it to the top table.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. It was not a high scoring first game. I think I only had about 300 and something thousand. I was actually the lowest scoring player to get to the top table, but there's just not a lot of points going around in that game. But yeah, made it into the top table with Maggie and Phil Schrader, Johannes, Rogue, Roxanne Barbour, and Jeremy Benedict. And the top table, it was an interesting game. This was Rogue talked about it as well on Section 31 last week, but the first round basically started with Maggie making it very clear right from the beginning that she was running a battle deck. She had scored 1.2 million points in the first game, in the qualifying round, and so right from the beginning she was out battling everybody. And as soon as she started battling people, Phil decided to start hitting her up like an ATM and playing utilizes and poisons, and that backfired because he poisoned her and hid an antidote in the first round. So she went out for a lot. But then a couple rounds later, she made the mistake of battling Johannes, and Johannes flipped 300,000s. And won that battle and went out that round. And that propelled him into the lead. Like she had maybe 300,000-400,000, but he was up around 500,000 or 600,000, and then he went out again in round 4 for a little bit. And then I went out in round 5. I had done I don't remember how I did it, but I managed to get a few 100,000s into the pile, and I went out. I'm like, you know what? I don't have enough, but I'm gonna go out and score something. And I counted up my points, and I think I was up around 300,000 or 400,000, and so I ended up taking third, which I'm pretty happy with, considering how many players.
Absolutely.
Pretty good triple showing.
You want to hear my
But
short report from the bottom table?
Sure.
did you play? Oh yeah, you are in there. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
like, did Jason play triples?
Yeah, I'm not much of a triple player. I found it interesting that you had 5 rounds, or was there more than 5 rounds?
It's 5, yeah.
That you got through? Yeah, when you play at the bottom table in triples, there's usually like 2 rounds because nobody can go out.
You had the death march.
Not the death march. Yeah, we had 3 players got decked.
Was this the qualifying round or the second
No,
round?
no, this is the second round at the
Okay.
number 7 table.
Okay.
All the people who aren't any good.
Oh, I don't know about that. You had, I see you had James Hoskin at your table, and Chris Loban was there.
All the people who aren't any good or who just were having a bad day.
Just had a bad day, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like that table actually had the biggest winner with Andrea Lobban.
Yes.
So
Well,
she-
in the round that just kept going and going and going, she ended up piling up a lot, and then someone poisoned her. Andrew and Anto.
Oh, whoops.
Usual. Yes.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised she wins that table though, because she plays a lot online, or she has played a lot online. I don't know if she still does, but anyway, congrats to Johannes. Johannes, a lot of people have been calling the MVP of Worlds this year because he placed top 4 of 1E, made it to the finals in 2E, after won the Champions event, and then won Triples World. So that's a pretty impressive showing
Very impressive.
across 4 days of gaming.
Yeah.
So basically, he went 4th, 2nd, 1st. He doubled his position each day. I think
Yes.
if he just switched around to dribbles first, then 2E, then 1E, he can win 1E next year.
Yeah. But very impressive showing. Very nice to have him out here. And he is like the classiest guy that you will ever meet or play a game against.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. It was nice to see him. There were a lot of great people. A lot of people that I got to meet last year and then see again. And a lot of people that I was meeting for the first time. And like I said, it was a huge showing, even compared to last year.
Yeah, and we had, of course, it's Worlds. We get the international splash, which is always nice.
Yeah, yeah. I think we had something like 6 or 7 countries represented, which for our little game is pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't count the 2E, but we had Austria, Germany, and Scotland, and of course the Canadians, if you count
Hmm.
them out of the country. I don't. Well, I have to travel as far as they do, so.
If you count TUI, we had UK was in there, and wherever it is Award is from. Is it Netherlands?
Yep, Netherlands. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it. But yeah, still very very impressive to get that many players, and some people will go to Worlds wherever it is, but it was great to have so many people that were coming to America, some for the first time. Uh, and Neil Matthew was a trip, wasn't he? Neil Matthew is a character.
I love Neil. I roomed with him, and both him and Johannes, actually.
That's right. That's right. You were in the other room of the room block.
Yes.
That was an interesting one. I saw the list, and I don't remember who else it was. It was you and Neil and Johannes, and then did you have one other person there?
John Bassi.
Oh, John VC. Yeah.
VC, yes. He unfortunately had a short stay. I think he had to leave. He had to leave work in a hurry and go back in a hurry.
Oh.
So we didn't get. I didn't get much chance to visit with him.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw that list, and I'm like, wow, how are those people going to get along?
Just fine, really. I really enjoyed being able to interact and meet with some players from outside the country and outside the usual spheres, and they were both very easy to get along with and very pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you probably didn't see much of Neil because I think he had some late nights.
Neil had a lot of late nights, so
Yeah.
I had early mornings though, so we were balanced as far as
And he showed up early too. He was there well before GenCon started. I think he was there Tuesday.
I met Neil at about 2 in the morning. I was in bed and he had come in. So he wasn't very noisy, but I wasn't quite asleep. So I woke up and said hello, and he came over and said, "Oh, I hear you're a dangerous 1E player." Shook my hand, and then I went back to bed.
There was a lot of that in our room too. A lot of nights where like a couple of people would show up at the room early and like nap for a while, and then when the other people showed up at 2 or 3 in the morning, they'd get up and we'd all talk for a little bit.
Yeah.
I roomed with Sean O'Reilly, who's in my local play group, and Lucas Thompson and Richard Delashmet, and those two I had not met before, and they were really cool as well. They were great to hang out with. And yeah, did you play in any of the world championships other than triples?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a moment. Say that again.
Oh, I asked if you played in any side events. I think you did play in the Warp Speed, right? Because I think I played you.
Yes, I played in a Warp Speed on Sunday night, and I played a couple of other sealed deck events. And,
yeah, I played.
And the team tournament.
Oh, right. How did you do in that?
In the team tournament?
Yeah.
I played against Morborg. I had if you count the finals bracket and the team tournament, I had a streak of 6 games with 4 Borg opponents. It got a little wearisome, but I won 2 and I lost to Neil. His board deck was especially dangerous because I tend to count on seeding strategies which involve identifying which missions I can pick on.
Hmm.
And Neil's Borg deck had 3 space missions in the Delta Quadrant, and he could do any of them, and then 3 homeworlds in the Alpha Quadrant, and he could do any of those.
His strategy is no strategy.
Yes. Well, his strategy is you can't cheat on him with the dilemmas. So.
Yeah, he is a very tough Borg player, and he has been at it for quite some time with a number of different builds. So yeah, he's a dangerous Borg player. Like he's deceptively good. Like you'd never know it to hang out with him, but when you're when you're in game, he's a tough player.
And I played in the Cool tournament as well. I don't
Oh
know.
yes.
Did you see any of those decks?
I saw most of them. I saw most of them at the end when they were being presented.
Yeah, this was I think this was the best Cool tournament I've been a part of. I've played in 3 now.
There were some really cool decks.
There were some extremely cool decks. I love the Generations deck.
Yeah, that was Sean's.
Yep. There was one deck based on the very original rulebook with nothing but Premier cards. 2 all Kira decks and the winning deck, of course, the judges' winner, the
Cheers deck from Jeremy Benedict. Yes.
Jeremy Benedict, thank you.
I was really surprised that 2 people thought to build all Kira decks. They were both interesting. They were both pretty unique. They kind of did their own thing. They
had
were not
different styles. One used a clone machine, and one used an anti-time anomaly and persistence.
Right. Right. One person had all copies of the same Kira, and then the other person just had every different Kira from 1E or 2E backwards compatible. Which it turns out is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just the backwards compatible. Like, I know there's like 19 Kiras in 2E, but even just the backward compatibles is still a lot.
Yes.
I played in a few side events myself. There were a few that I ended up skipping on. I didn't play in as many of the sealed events as I had expected. I did play in the Warp Speed one on Sunday night, and I played the Rainbow Sealed on Wednesday night, which was very interesting. That one was
Warp Sealed.
What's that?
How did you do in the Warp Sealed?
In the Warp Sealed, I was 0-3. I came in last place.
Oh.
out of 8. I don't know. For some reason, I enjoy Warp Speed, but for some reason with the shorter time limit, I tend to think too quickly and I make stupid mistakes.
Yeah. Yes, I think our game went to time almost.
Yeah, but I feel like that pressure's always on me, and I tend to play quickly and then forget things. Like against you, I remember there was a point where you came a little too close to me. I think you were at your farm mission, and your whole team was down on a planet, and you got stopped by something, and there was a mission debriefing, and so you couldn't beam up. And I was at a point where I could have come over and blown up your ship if I'd played staffing for my 2 ships, and I did not do that.
Yeah.
I played a second ship, and then I played a personnel, and I went, oh crap, I didn't play a second command star, and yeah.
Well, I think the time limit is compounded by the fact that you're also playing a deck you just built, so you're not as familiar with the strategies, and you're playing a different set of rules. In this case, you could be Federation and attack, whereas you're not used to that with Federation decks. So.
Certainly not. Yeah. But I always enjoy it. It's always interesting to see what kind of decks come out of the pools, what people open, and I did notice. I don't know. We had some charmed packs, I think, because there were a lot of bridge crew coming out.
Yeah.
There were a lot of Voyager bridge crew in those packs. I think there were. I saw 3 Janeways, 2 Tuvoks,
wow.
2 Parises. I know there was a Kess and a 7 in there. I had a Voyager and a Delta Flyer. There was some good stuff, and of course, was it you that had Pandari champion and Pink?
Darian champion and Pink. So they're not that powerful in the warp game, but it's a pretty good draw to add to the collection.
Oh, the Pandari yeah. Well, the Pandari champion, that's a very nice pull, being one of the ultra rares. That's certainly great for the collection. But it was cool to see what you did, which was seed the Pink as your one noun, and then download the Pandari champion.
Sure. Yeah.
Before the game even starts. That was cool.
I was ready for battle in that one.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the only way I got my wins, was putting out a Vidian fleet and blowing ships up.
Yep. But Lucas ended up winning that event, which very cool. He beat you. He beat Ken Tufts, and I forget who else, but yeah, he played a really strong game.
He did. Got a decent draw.
Yep.
The 8472 dilemma and assigned mission specialists.
And he had his deck fine-tuned pretty well too. It was very, very trim deck.
Yes. I think if I had played him better, I would have lost. But I played him badly, and I lost badly. he literally beat me in like 3 turns.
Oh well.
Yes.
But hey, yeah, congrats to him. That was a fun event. That was the Sunday night. That was literally the last event of GenCon, or at least for Trek events. Although I did, we did go back to the hotel and played some Cards Against Humanity.
Yes, for which humanity will forever hate us.
But yeah, it was a great trip. But what do you think, Jason? Any chance you're gonna be able to defend the title next year?
Oh, that's a long and expensive trip. I'll look into it right now. I'm doubtful.
Australia is quite an investment.
It is, and I always thought if I were going to go to one, I would go to one in Europe, because I would like to go to Europe someday.
That would be nice too. Yeah.
Yes. Nothing against the Australians. It's just seems a little more interesting. I'd get a chance to practice a little German or something.
Yeah.
There.
Okay, so if not Worlds, you think Gen Con's going to happen again?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I'll go to Gen Con if I don't go to Worlds. Try to see if I can get Todd to go with me this year.
Yeah, I think Todd went last year. I think I remember meeting him.
Yep. We didn't really go together. We roomed together last year and hung out together. So.
Yeah.
And I built his 1E deck. He built my 2E deck. So, because he'd been out of practice on 1E for a long time, and of course I don't have much of a clue about 2E.
Right.
I took last place. I blame the deck.
Did you play any 2E?
Not this year, but last year at the con.
Oh, last year. Okay.
I played 2E. Took dead last. One modified win. Yes. Hope that makes everyone feel better.
Just not your game. That's all.
Well, like 1E, it's got a big learning curve, and
sure.
And a lot of cards to collect, or in this case, print, and it's probably a little more work than I want to invest at this point.
Yeah.
You know, I still have a dozen 1E decks floating around in my head that I want to build and play. So it's not like there's a lack of variety and interest in the game.
Sure.
Play, so.
And still new cards coming out all the time. So always new ideas. Well, Jason, I think we should probably start wrapping this up.
Do you want to hear my Eltonian brain teaser story from my game with Johannes?
Absolutely.
Never quite got to that. It was perhaps my most interesting in-game moment of the weekend.
Okay.
Well, I was playing Johannes. He was playing the Sona. He got out his Ruafo and started doing his download chain with the special downloads. And I thought I'd punish that a bit with a containment field. Now, if you get out a containment field, you can make them put a card on it and then QRef cycle it. so that
Right.
they lose their card and you get back your card draw.
Right.
Well, I did that, and then he downloaded his own containment field to stop other shenanigans from going on. And a few turns later, I had a card on his containment field. It was for going to the top or hidden fighter, I don't remember which.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit an Eltonian Brain Teaser. And I was using Strategic Base, and I had an android sitting there who was security and therefore had a Cunning of 11. And I needed 2 special downloads to get her up to Cunning of 15. For a Federation pad and lower decks, and I decided to do it. So I ended up.
So that would put 3 on containment field. You'd miss your next turn.
Yes, I put 3 cards on containment field and lost a turn. So I had 30 points at stake though, because I had 2 mission specialists, James T. Kirk, and 15 points of point dilemmas seated there.
Wow.
So that was almost an entire mission's worth of points.
But you actually passed the brain teaser.
Yes, I met the conditions for the brain teaser and did not lose the bonus. I lost a turn instead, but I'm not sure it was the best decision. But I didn't think I'd ever get another chance to beat an Eltonian brain teaser.
Wow.
That's
that's something that doesn't happen often. That was in day 2 in the finals. Or
That was
semifinals?
that was my game against Johannes.
So yeah, well, it paid off. You won the game.
Yes,
Nice.
down to the wire.
Well, Jason, it's been great talking with you and having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Being the world champion, the 16th first edition world champion since Decipher started doing them. I counted the little names on the plaque.
so is it the 16th different or the 16th?
No, just the 16th, not 16th different.
Okay.
Because I think it's 14th different.
Yeah, Dave Bowling is kind of a championship hog.
Yes. And over on the other side, of course, Neil Timmons winning his 2nd world championship. He last won in 2009. So 5 years later, he takes another one. So congratulations to Neil Timmons. And, of course, to Johannes Klarhauser for winning Tribbles Worlds. And GenCon was awesome. Glad so many people made it out, and glad everybody had such a good time, and hopefully we can do it again next year. That's World Championships. So that is the end of our little run here with the Road to Worlds podcast, at least for now. Stay tuned. Maybe we do this again next year. We'll see what the interest is in it. And maybe we come back. We've also got some national events coming up, and Masters events are kicking off in the wintertime. So I don't know. We may have some more high level events to talk about. So stay tuned. In the meantime, thanks so much to Greg Dillon. When I first announced that I wanted to do this show, which started with just the regional events, I was like, yeah, I'm looking for some people to come on the show and talk about regional events. And I'm like, if anyone wants to co-host, that'd be cool too. I didn't think anyone was gonna take me seriously on that, but Greg was like, yeah, I can do that. And Greg, you've gone over and above as far as making each show and really taking the time doing the research, and like you did your homework going into each event. You knew what you were talking about, even though you don't know most of these play groups. You haven't been out to America or to Europe, or you just know the few people that have come to see you in Australia. But no, you've done a fantastic job with your research, and so I wanted to thank you for all that.
Oh no, yeah, thank you. I mean, I was the other way around when you posted about in the thread about doing the show and then asking for guests or co-hosts, I thought there'd be more competition. So I was like, I got to get in quick and have a shot at it. So I actually thought I didn't have a chance. No, it's been really really good fun. Like looking at all the tournaments and all the players, and especially talking to the guests, a lot of people that I haven't met before as well. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride, and I enjoy having people on the show to talk to, talking about different regional events, and really getting to like focus on different play groups and look at different players each week, and kind of put a spotlight on some of these the regional events, and then moving on into the bigger events. So. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and we'll see what happens when we get into the national events and the Masters events. Maybe we'll come back for some special episodes, but hopefully we get to do this again. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up. So thanks again, Jason Drake, for joining us tonight, and thanks to Greg, and thanks to all the guests that have come by the show over the last few months. For now, this is Daniel Madison, ending transmission.